panelists later on in this session with your feedback. Thank you, Hotan, for your response. Let's get some more responses on the chat before I begin. A few housekeeping rules before we begin the session. Please use the chat section if you have any technical difficulties, and the Q&A chat for all your questions. Please use the reaction icon for me to know we're engaged and enjoying the discussions. So for now, can I get a couple of thumbs ups from the reactions icon, please? So I know you're engaged and you're here. Awesome. Thank you so much. All right. I would like to invite my colleague, Robert Jenga. He's the head of marketing and partnerships at Wild, to give us an opening remarks about Wild International before we move to the next section. Over to you, Robert.
All right. Thank you so much, Michelle. Good morning, everyone. Once again, thank you so much for joining us this morning for this insightful session that we have in store for you. My name is Robert Njenga, and at Wild International, I serve as the head of marketing and partnerships. Just to give you a brief background of what Wild International is, and more importantly, what we do, is that we are a business consulting firm that specializes in the development and execution of strategy services. We've been developing strategies for SMEs across all sectors for the last 20 years. In fact, this year, we are actually celebrating our 20th anniversary as a company. So if you follow our social media pages, be on the lookout for that. We are planning on having quite the celebration. Above and beyond that, we are members of an organization called the Sandbox. If you look at my screen on the top right, you will see a black logo. So the Sandbox is spelled SNDBX. The Sandbox is a collection of over 35 experts who are all geared towards providing support towards entrepreneurs. So if you're an entrepreneur and say you have a challenge in legal, tech, digital marketing, you name it, if you walk into the Sandbox today, you'll find an expert who's ready and willing to support you. We operate in the Sandbox under something called the village formula. I'm sure you've all heard of the saying that it takes a village to raise a child. So at the Sandbox, we say it takes a village to raise an entrepreneur. So all these experts are there ready and willing to provide support for you or to you. At the Sandbox, we are the strategy experts. So if you walk into the Sandbox, Wild are the ones who are going to help you with your strategy needs. Above and beyond that, we do have a very strong component of entrepreneurship development. We do work with various development partners on various programs that are geared towards providing support towards entrepreneurs. We are running a project in partnership with an organization called Meta, which we have been running quite successfully for the last 6 years. That project is geared towards upskilling the youth on various digital skills. We have another program that we're running in partnership with Aceli Africa. That program is geared towards providing entrepreneurs with the skills necessary to grow their businesses in the agri-SME space. For that particular program, we're running that across East Africa. So that's Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda. We also have another program that we're running with Brighter Monday. If you're a job seeker in this country, I'm sure you may have interacted with Brighter Monday at one point in your life. So we also have a digital skills program that we're running in partnership with them. We're also running another program in partnership with an organization called WRI, that's the World Resource Institute. So if you're an entrepreneur who's restoring our great landscapes, for example, the Great Rift Valley, the Lake Rusizi in Rwanda, that program is there to support you. We also have another program that we're running with Uno Social Business that is geared towards providing support towards entrepreneurs that have or conducting businesses that have a social cause. So we are very, very passionate about, helping and supporting entrepreneurs. Above and beyond that, we do have a strong component of business coaching. We are one of the few organizations that strongly believe in the need to work with entrepreneurs through their growth journey. So after you take up one of our programs, or if we do a strategy for you, we don't just leave you to go into the wild and survive on your own. We work with you through that journey, help you grow and basically be able to execute that strategy in the best way possible. Finally, we do have a strong component of access to finance, where we work with various financial partners to try and find various financial solutions for the entrepreneurs that we work with. So as you can see, we are doing a lot to support entrepreneurs. We are very, very passionate, as I mentioned, in supporting in our work to support entrepreneurs. This webinar is part of an ongoing series as well, International, where we hold monthly webinars on the last week of each month. And basically, these webinars are supposed to support SMEs on how to figure out critical topics that perhaps are a challenge to them on a day-to-day basis. This topic is the one that is near and dear to most entrepreneurs. A lot of you, I know, entrepreneurship is not the easiest thing to undertake. So this is something I believe a lot of entrepreneurs are struggling with when it comes to mental health. We previously have also run a session that was geared towards succession planning. You know, SMEs, typically African SMEs, we are not known for our succession planning. We've also done one that is related towards human resource management. You know, as an SME, how can you recruit and retain top talent? It's not very easy when you're an SME. You don't have the biggest budgets, but at the same time, you still want to have talent that helps you grow. So we do cover a wide array of topics that are all geared towards, you know, just providing critical information for SMEs so that ultimately they can grow their businesses. So I think with that being said, let me hand it over back to a very capable moderator, Michelle, who has a very, very engaging session in store for us. Thank you all once again for joining us, and all the best. Over to you, Michelle.
Thank you, Robert. You can find more information about Wild and the work that we do. I think we'll be sharing a link to our website on the chat. My team and the back end will be providing that information. All right, so let's get into it. I hope we're all excited today to be passions and engagement, mental health. Just to confirm if my internet okay, please give me a thumbs up into. Sorry, am I audible? All right. Okay, I'm thrilled to introduce our amazing speaker panel today. We have a lineup of incredible individuals who have all walked through the tightrope of balancing mental health and the entrepreneurial journey. I'll start with Caroline Metisu. She is the CEO and founder of Her Hustle. Caroline is an ardent believer in mentoring young women in business for social and economic independence. She is a social media expert with over 6 years of experience and a passion for empowering young African women entrepreneurs. Leveraging her digital expertise, Caroline has not only built a strong personal brand featured in publications like The People Daily, but also designed and delivered impactful social media campaigns for global organizations like Meta, BFA Global, and Elia Foundation, Siegel Family Foundation, and more. This experience extends to supporting and mentoring startups across diverse sectors like fashion and F&B, helping them harness the power of social media to achieve sustainable social impact. Next, we have Angela Waweru, who is the founder of Sister Speaks Global and Heals for Pads. Angela has 14 years of combined experience in media, entrepreneurship, marketing, education, and the nonprofit sector, both in the UK and in Kenya. She is the founder of Sister Speaks Global and Heals for Pads Foundation. These organizations are women-led and female-centric, as they both focus on empowering girls and women through creating safe spaces for economic empowerment and uninterrupted access to education. They help restore period dignity to ensuring those in marginalized communities have access to menstrual products. Angela is passionate about women and working towards helping create bridges that lead to a world that is more inclusive. Dr. Joyce Wangari Ngugi is a consultant and a research mentor for Hopewell Consulting. Dr. Joyce Wangari Ngugi is a consultant, psychologist, and certified coach. She runs MHPSS Opportunities, the largest network of mental health practitioners with over 3,000 members. Dr. Ngugi specializes in diversity, equality, and inclusion, psychometric assessments, training, and psycho-entrepreneurship. She is an awardee of the American Psychological Association and a TED laureate. Dr. Prashna, clinical psychologist, PRS Therapy Solutions. Dr. Prashna Shah is a result-focused clinical psychologist with a specialization in chemical dependency, trauma, amongst others. Her treatment methods is to always seek to utilize her extensive experience in clinical assessments and EMDR, positive psychology and neurocentric skills to meet any challenge in assisting individuals, psychological issues, and initiative intervention programs. This way, patients are aided in facing and overcoming current issues and reaching their full potential. She has a unique ability to build trust and strong bonds with her patients through the use of her deep in-depth of psychological behavior issues interactions. Okay, so I'd like to welcome everyone once again for joining this webinar on balancing mental health. I will get right into the session and engage our panelists. So just building on the stories of some of our panelists, I would like to direct this question to Carol and Angela. What inspired you to become an entrepreneur, and how has it impacted your mental health journey?
Great. Thanks, Michelle, for that lovely introduction. Honored to be here. I think for me, what I would say inspired me to become an entrepreneur is, as a woman, a young woman starting business, I felt there was a lack of access to resources and networks that were supporting a lot of young and upcoming entrepreneurs to know how can we be able to scale our businesses. How do we know how to be able to access resources that can support us in terms of our growth? And I felt this desire in terms of my mental health in setting really high unrealistic goals to help me navigate this new ecosystem that I found myself in. And there was a lot of pressure coming from both myself and just trying to succeed. And I also felt a lot of financial strain, trying to see how do I put in my own personal finances to help this business that I'm channeling in money, and when will it start making revenue, and when will I start seeing profits? When I just felt that there was a lot of pressure from myself, and that was mentally a little bit challenging for me.
Thank you so much, Caroline, for that feedback. I think we all struggle with the internal pressure to be able to be successful, to be able to have our financials in order. Angela, maybe you can also share with us some feedback on your journey and how that has been for you.
Yeah, sure. Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me to be part of this webinar. Yeah, as it was mentioned, I am a founder of two organizations, Sister Speak Global and Hills for Flats Foundation, and glad to be on this panel with Caroline. Nice to see you again, and the rest of you as well. So a little bit about our organization, or rather how I found myself as an entrepreneur. I grew up in the UK and I moved back about 8 years ago with the intention of doing something for girls and women. But I guess my networks, or rather my background in Kenya, was at one point I did come and work at NTV. So my background was more media. So I didn't really have a background in education here. And my background in education was more in UK than it was in Kenya. So I had to kind of like start from scratch. And when I moved back, my intention was to create a platform for creating a safe space for girls and developing girls, improving their lives, preparing them more for life outside of education, because I felt that that was the gap that was missing. Fast forward to 3 years living here, I connected with two of my founding partners. We had interest in creating safe spaces for women where we could do events for women. And that's how Sister Speaks Global was founded, because it's predominantly about events for women. And we use our digital media space to enhance or tell stories of women. We've actually interviewed Caroline about her story with her hustle through our podcast called Overreact. And then we, as a side, one of the connecting factors a majority of the women have is periods. So Heels for Pads was founded on the focus of trying to ensure girls and women in marginalized communities who can't come to events, we can restore confidence or restore their period dignity by giving them access to period products, and through also providing access to menstrual health education. We do that through getting donations of heels, and then we sell them, or you pay us with the equivalent amount of pads that we need, or the money that we need that will get us the pads that we look for. So in starting that, it's been 5 years this year. Mental health, it's really interesting that I find myself I don't talk about mental health, I talk about menstrual health. But this week was a really bad week. I'll be candid because I feel like it's necessary. I had a dark week. I started my week crying, broken down. I eventually confessed to my parents and my sister that I'm low, and for them to pray for me, because I just couldn't get out of this where I feel like everyone thinks I'm reached a certain space or a certain place, but I feel I'm not there yet. So that battle between how people see you, what you want to achieve, imposter syndrome, all of that, I battled with that a lot this week. I feel better today. And I think in terms of mental health, what I'm learning to do better is allowing myself to feel. Because if I stop that feeling, it could end up somewhere else. I could end up doing something horrible. I call it the champagne bottle effect. If you bottle everything in, eventually one day it will pop at the wrong time and everything will splurge. So I'm learning to let myself feel. So I allowed myself to feel the way I was feeling. I didn't talk to anyone because I just needed to let those negativities flow out of me, and just, get out of my damn way, and then go back in the mirror and tell myself I'm a bad bee, So that's my journey.
Thank you so much, Angela, for sharing that. I think I can resonate with you on the imposter syndrome and feeling down sometimes and not being able to express our emotions, which I think is such an important thing to do. So thank you for sharing that. And also just taking the girls that you support through Heels for Pads with the guidance and the navigation after education. I think that's something very important, because I think most of us tend to try and figure things out on our own. So thank you so much for that feedback. I hope we can engage on the chat on some of our challenges for entrepreneurs and anybody else who's joining on the call, whether you're in corporate, whether you're an entrepreneur. Just share with us your feedback on what are the challenges that you've experienced in terms of your mental health. I'll go over to Dr. Joyce and Dr. Prashna. Dr. Joyce and Dr. Prashna, please tell us, what are the most common mental health challenges faced by entrepreneurs? So I'll start with Dr. Joyce, please.
Thank you so much. I was just following Caroline's story of the isolation and the sort of like groping in the dark, wondering where are the people who support people with businesses. I really got that. And thank you also, Angela, for sharing this sense of universality when you came about an idea about pads, which is universal for, most women. And as a business idea, also becoming honest about your own experience. So that was a really vivid share. Thank you so much. So the most common mental health challenges, just like our previous speakers have said, is stress and burnout. And there's sort of what people like to call the work-life balance, but we wonder whether work is part of life or it's separate. But, one of the biggest challenges for entrepreneurs is maintaining a healthy balance, because an entrepreneur has this idea, and just like Caroline was narrating, it's almost like she's walking with this idea that she wants to make an entire business. And so while many entrepreneurs, are healthy, they're health conscious, they eat healthy, they exercise, a lot more are chronically sleep deprived. Some of these ideas are keeping up our business people, up all night. And I think we have not just entrepreneurs on this call. I think we also have intrapreneurs, Those are people who are hired for entrepreneurship firms. So probably you're also not just the founder of your organization, but you could also be an employee of another entrepreneur. So these are very, very common thing because when you're sleep deprived, then that increases the stress. And then there's another thing that creeps up on a lot of entrepreneurs, which is burnout. And burnout sort of does not announce. It just creeps up on you. A lot of cynicism, a lot of feeling like you're no longer effective. And burnout has been recognized by the World Health Organization as an occupational hazard. So that was very important in our field of mental health, that burnout got the recognition in order that business people, entrepreneurs can start to sense, when they are having burnout creeping up on them, this exhaustion and fatigue and the entire, symptoms of burnout. Then, of course, we have a lot of anxiety, isolation, and loneliness. I don't need to continue. I think it's a common thing. A lot of entrepreneurs are breaking new ground. And for instance, if Angela would have given up on her pads idea, I mean, the market already has other people creating pads, but what would have made her, still launch her program? So there's usually a lot of fear of failure as well. And she alluded to imposter syndrome, which is a very common thing. And surprisingly, imposter syndrome affects the very best of us. Those of us who are the most brilliant with a lot of creative ideas, we have this ongoing self-doubt, almost like a voice in the brain that's saying, oh, you're not good enough. And then lastly, I will also highlight grief. Many people think grief and loss is only to do with bereavement. But what about the highs and lows of business and entrepreneurship? Angela, again, expounded in full about this last week being dark for her. And, especially because there are expectations of someone in entrepreneurship to be doing well. In our Kenyan culture, we hear a lot of people saying, I am doing jua kali, meaning they're doing part-time work, freelancing here and there. And you'll hear another very common Kenyan expression. People are saying, ni kujaribu jaribu tu, because there's this perception that entrepreneurship is just the thing you do between jobs before you get the next real job. While, of course, we know that the partners here, especially Wild, have been doing amazing work supporting entrepreneurs, but there's grief and loss in the faces of business. Sometimes it's not as good as we would like. And right now, we've just been in an unprecedented season in Kenya. We just had a new holiday out of nowhere because we had like a major tragedy with flooding. We've had a lot of climate change problems and a lot of families being bereaved. So aside from the classic grief, which people mostly associate with bereavement, there are all these other secondary losses. And so loss and grief being part and parcel of the entrepreneurship journey is something that's not very much acknowledged. But as I finish, let me also say that while entrepreneurs have these big ideas, it is possible that a lot of them are living with very inhuman stress levels, very, very high stress levels that have not been checked. And the worst thing about stress is it can move into anxiety, depression, and any other serious mental illness. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Joyce, for that insightful feedback. I think I have a question for you before I let Dr. Prashna go. How do you deal with the burnout? Because I think most of us experience the burnout and we tend to find very interesting solutions. I myself personally will continue to work during the burnout, which is not very sustainable. So can you maybe tell us, how do you deal with the burnout and how do you have, I don't even know that to call it like a very balanced work-life balance, because I don't know if you can actually have that work-life balance, but how do you deal with it?
I really liked Caroline's story around creative industry. And, in the creative industry, they say, we know the business is in cycles, just like in most other sectors. But in the creative industry, it's sort of like you can get a windfall. And sometimes you're told, oh, if we add you more money, can you stay at work? So most people work through burnout. And I don't think that's very healthy. We need to systemic interventions and individual interventions. I think at the systems, we need to start taking care of each other as colleagues and having someone else do your role as much as possible. And then I would say at the individual level, a lot of coping strategies, but we kind of group them into like problem forecasts, which I think entrepreneurs are very good at, going to the source of the problem, troubleshooting what else you can do in order not to be so burnt out, or maybe having a talk with your boss if your boss is a nasty boss, for example. Those are problem forecasts. But then there are other emotion forecast strategies, all the internal facing stuff like mindfulness, stress management through journaling, walking, creative visualization and guided imagery. For example, imagining a safe space, and of course, lastly, letting go. A lot of stuff cannot be fixed, so you don't need to use the problem solving. You need to kind of just imagine them like a passing cloud or like a river that's just flowing away. And so those things can be effective in reducing burnout. I think we need more enterprises that have spaces for people to just have small group discussions and commiserate and kind of complain about how tough the economy is and things like that, so that we are able to let these things out of the way and we can tackle burnout better. Whenever we take leave, we need to take real leave. I think Kenyans are getting better at taking real time off. We know some cultures in the world which are really good. Even the word holiday is now catching on in Kenya. So we need to like take active regenerating rest, not like sleeping on your bed and holding your phone and watching TikTok all day. That's not very restful. Of course, if you need to get enough sleep, you just rest, that's okay. But we need like to finish everything on time and get, a real break when we take a break. So those are just some of the coping strategies for burnout. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Joyce, for that. I will be sure to take actual leave because I don't think I ever actually take actual leave. And I will be sure the next time I'm relaxing, I'm also not on my bed on TikTok because that tends to happen a lot. All right, Dr. Prashna, maybe you can give us some feedback on that before we move to the next question on how to deal with burnout and stress.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for having me. Firstly, Doc, that was very thorough. I'm not left with much to say, except expand that anger has been one of the things that also come up a lot with our sessions with entrepreneurs. It is as a direct result, yes, of stress and frustration. So in addition to burnout, stress, anxiety, depression, etc., we're seeing a lot of issues around anger. We're seeing a lot of issues around substance abuse. We're seeing a lot of issue around alcoholism, gambling, impulsive eating, etc. So these are in addition to what Doc has already touched upon. We're also facing other lifestyle changes as entrepreneurs. The other thing that working in the hospital industry also I've noticed is a lot of entrepreneurs are coming in with organic illnesses, which are a direct result of the stress, the lack of sleep, the constant being on your toes, diabetes, thyroid diseases, etc. So we're seeing that these are almost directly linked to a high level of entrepreneurs. And we're now also focused on trying to deal with not only your mental health, but also an organic body disease. So this is in addition to what Doc has said. For both the entrepreneurs as panelists, thank you for being vulnerable. Thank you for being open about it. Takes courage to come on and say, guys, I've had a horrible week. And I think all of us on Monday's discovery call had started Monday off really bad. I think there's not one of us that said, this Monday, 4 o'clock, we're all feeling okay. whether we were in the mental health space or the entrepreneurship space or the wild space. I think Monday just began the way it began. For everyone this week has been, I don't know, something else, perhaps culminating at the end of Mental Health Month, May being Mental Health Month. It just took everything out from all of us. I remember messaging my AI last night saying, has Tuesday the 4th or has June 4th been, done? And do you know what time this message went out? It was 3 a.m. this morning. And she wakes up and she calls me at 7:30 and she's like, Doc, first of all, why are you awake at 3? Secondly, what's going on with our days? Where are they going? And I'm like, they're getting full. And if people don't put in their times, we're going to have no time for fitting in everybody. So that's the other thing entrepreneurs do. Like Doc said, I've stopped calling it work-life balance. I think it's called work-life management now, because we're truly just managing. And I've learned in my work independently as well as with entrepreneurs, allow yourself the grace. If today you've got work taking up 80% of your day, it's okay. Just allow it to be that way for the moment, but be mindful that this is what is happening. This is your season, perhaps, to be working. Like, I had an unprecedentedly busy month of speaking engagements where, like, for example, today we're here on this panel till 1 p.m. and then I'm seeing patients from 2 p.m. And my medical assistant was, Doc, we left the clinic yesterday at 8. And I'm like, yeah, but we're exceptionally busy. I get home and I've got a commitment. I'm looking at, many of us now are in that age bracket where we're now direct caregivers to our parents. So either we're responsible for them, or in my case, my dad's living with me. A lot of us are in single parenthood, perhaps not only broken homes, but also partners working out of county, out of station. So we've got this all going on. So all I'm saying is, if your season is to work for the moment, just be mindful that, okay, this is my season to work. And like both Doc and Michelle said, when it's my season to do the life bit or the parenting bit or the child bit or the daughter, sister, brother, uncle, cousin, etc. bit, and it may take away from the business bit, allow the space, the patience, the grace to yourself. So be kind, be mindful, be gracious, and be patient. I think those are the few things I would say, in addition to coping with everything else that we're dealing with, the finances, the new taxes that we wake up to in the middle of the day. You're getting a WhatsApp saying, by the way, this has changed, and you're just trying to catch up with the last change, or like, and a holiday at the end of the week, and you're like, how do I readjust my entire end of week? Where do I fit in? Do I go to work? Do I stay home? What do I do? So yeah, just, take it as it comes. Sometimes you've got to take it in your stride. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Dr. Prashna. I like what you said about work-life management. I also like what you said about just being mindful and extending grace to ourselves, because I think that is something is very important. And also just taking things by season, whether it's a work season, whether it's a family season, just taking things a day at a time and allowing and extending grace to yourself. Yeah, so thank you so much for that. I think I have one more question in relation to what you've just shared. What would you say are some of the myths and misconceptions about mental health?
Thank you. I think people think that mental health, the stigma around mental health is A, you're supposed to be violent, or B, it's a weakness. Like, how many of you have, even from our own close and near, have had, you know, get up, show up, pitch up, do what you got to do in, you know, or how many of you have been told, just move on, get on with it? So that's a huge myth and misconception. Sometimes, to be honest, we can't just move on. We find it difficult to let go of something that is virtually almost like a baby to us. Our businesses take that morph into being almost like our children. We're nurturing that growth the same way we nurture another human being. So that's the other myth. The other one was, if I just push through, I'll be okay. You know, I don't need to tell anybody. I can do this on my own. If I delegate, I'm going to be seen as weak. If I admit to it being a low week, a low month, I'm going to be seen as a failure. So these are some of the myths that come around with mental health and entrepreneurship, but also mental health and human beings generally. The other one is, panic attacks are going to be fatal, because a lot of what we've seen is panic attacks come with heart racing or difficulty breathing. You know, suddenly you're feeling like you're under excessive heat, etc. And you think, oh my God, am I gonna die? Am I having a heart attack? And you come into one of our clinics, and we do an ECG. It's not that we don't. We will perform an ECG, and we'll be like, well, no, this is normal. So perhaps you know, what else is going on in your life? So some people come in and think their panic attack is going to be fatal. And it feels fatal. Don't take it wrong. It does to the person that's going through it. The physical symptoms of their mental health at that moment, can feel overwhelming, can feel fatal, can feel totally out of control. So those are some of the things that we face. Doc, you can take on a few of what you've seen in your practice.
Yeah, thank you so much. The violent one is, I guess, the most common. So yeah, I agree with you. But just in addition to what you've said, people also think that it's all about mental illness, that mental health is all about mental illness or is the same as mental illness, therefore can only be treated with medication. And in Kenya, you know, we go further and say, oh, those are the mental cases. And sometimes we over-spiritualize mental health problems, while the truth is they are very common. So another myth is people thinking, oh, these are very uncommon problems. Mental health problems are not about me, I'm okay. You know, it's those guys and it can't happen to me. But we know that, for instance, depression, 1 in 3 people, so, or 1 in 4 people, take a random number of 4 people, you know, probably one of them is having a depressive episode, even if not too severe at the moment. Depression and anxiety being the most common mental health conditions, you know, and a couple others are around, you know, willpower. And I think, Doc, you alluded to that very well, like people thinking it's about weakness. So they think, oh, if only you have sheer willpower or just change your lifestyle and stop taking alcohol, then you'll stop being addicted, you know? So like addiction is a lack of willpower, which we know is now not true. Evidence suggests that this is a condition that can be treated. You can treat addiction just like you treat any other, including behavioral addiction, like gambling, which you had earlier mentioned, can be treated just like any other medical illness, So those are some of the myths and misconceptions. I think in our setting in the entrepreneurial space, COVID was a blessing because mental health became a buzzword and a lot more people understood just the basics. So it's not true that some people are immune to mental illness. Anybody can actually have a mental health condition and have serious mental illness. And it's not only people without friends who need therapists. We get that a lot. Those of us who are so-called shrinks, we are told, oh, we don't need to see therapists because only people who are lonely, have no friends, need therapists. I think everybody could do, it's just like taking a vehicle for a service, or just like how people go to the spa and rejuvenate their bodies. I mean, going for therapies also doesn't mean your mental health problems are permanent or they're so bad. It just means that, you could be affected now and you could learn to manage, cope, and overcome them. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Joyce. I think I resonate with you on the spirituality aspect of it when you go and share that you're going through something and someone tells you, oh, you just need to fast and pray and everything will be okay. And sometimes you actually just need to talk it out and, go see a professional and just get feedback and advice from someone and just express yourself completely. We are about to get into our poll, but before we do, I have one more question and then I will take us through a recap and then we will go through our poll. So my question again will be for Dr. Joyce. It's on decision-making. So how does stress impact decision-making and productivity in entrepreneurship?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Earlier, Dr. Prashna had alluded to time management. And so sometimes we also talk about focus management. So because of the competing priorities, like Dr. Prashna was saying, not just from the business, there's also other things outside. There's lots of decisions that entrepreneurs have to make. So we definitely know that if you are generally healthy and happy, you will make better decisions in your business. And that's why, if you're angry or dealing with a huge upset, it's not a good time to make a rash decision, even in the entrepreneurship. So when we have a shift to focus management, we can stop being so obsessed with time limitations. Like when we feel like we are running out of time and we have to make huge decisions in the entrepreneurship, and instead managing the focus. And so we have so many tools for productivity. There's one popular one called Eisenhower matrix, or the 4D matrix, where you arrange all your tasks in order of urgency and importance. So there are some things you're going to do if they are urgent and important. But if they are urgent and not important, it means somebody else can do them. So you can delegate. So those that you cannot do, you delegate. And then there are others which are important but not urgent. They don't have to be done right now. They can be done later. So what do? We defer them or we schedule them for later. And then there are those ones which are neither important and not healthy, like you have a thought to have junk food in the middle of a stressful day. Those are the kinds of things to delete, to completely not do. So there's just one of them, very many tools, and we equip a lot of entrepreneurs with handy tools to increase focus management, not just time management, in order to bolster their mental health. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Joyce. I didn't even know there were tools that we can use. It's the first time I'm hearing of 4D metrics. So I'll definitely be reaching out to you for that in terms of focus management. I don't know if we have anyone who would like to give us feedback on that question, maybe Angela, Caroline, or Dr. Prashna, before I get into our overview of our first session and then our poll. Dr. Prashna, Caroline, Angie.
I think I have something I can say.
Okay, go ahead.
I think I have experienced everything that the doctors have shared, from isolation to dealing with stress, panic attacks, anxiety, and stress eating. So I don't know, Doc, saying about if we're craving a KFC just to feel good about our day, if we should forget about it, or we should just maybe perhaps fix ourselves a healthy meal. But I think this session is really important, and I can actually see as entrepreneurs, we may not know what we are actually experiencing until we speak to a professional. Not talking to friends and family, they'll tell you, you know, just deal with it, forget about it. You don't have to work on it today, focus on it the other day, and take a break, you know, some of those things. But speaking to a professional, they actually help you realize what you're going through. And it's not that it's something that is only affecting you alone, but it can also affect people you're living with, people who you're working with. If you are undergoing stress, people either that you're in the office with, you might just find yourself lashing out, taking out your emotions, and you don't actually even know what's going on. So I think this session is great. It's also helping me understand more of some of the situations that I found myself in. So kudos to you, doctors. I think every entrepreneur should have professional session where they can engage with yourselves.
Thank you, Caroline. Angie, I think you wanted to say something.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Prashna and Dr. Joyce. I think there's another technique, because we live in a world where we're used to swiping all the time, watching short minute videos. So naturally, we are, I guess, in a sense, developing some sort of ADHD as a result, because we're so used to short span things. So there's a technique called the Pomodoro technique, and you can do it. You basically set a timer of 25 minutes. You just decide, I'm going to do a task on, I don't know, emailing, right? So you set a timer for 25 minutes, and then you take a 5-minute break after that 25 minutes. 4 times you take a 5-minute break. And then at the end, you take a 15, after you've done 4 tasks, you take a 15 to 30 minutes. I found that helpful, because I feel like now I'm so used to doing things short term. And then after that 25 minutes are done, I'm like, oh, I can keep going. So you kind of just helps you try and do as much as you can within that timer. So that's a really good one when you have things like accounts, which I hate, and you need to do them. So it kind of motivates you to do a lot more. I agree with the Eisenhower matrix. It's really important, because a lot of times you respond to things that actually you can do that from 8 p.m. or 7 p.m. You don't need to be doing that at 9 a.m. because it's not a priority. And we need to be better as business people to learn to delegate. I think my feedback would be, when it comes to doing a business, I've done a business alone and I've done a business with partners. I see the value with working with partners, because of course then you can split your ideas. There's somebody who's better at doing this, and then someone else is better at doing that. I know sometimes with money constraints, you can't hire people, but they are interns who are looking for opportunities. So you can look, contact universities, try and see which entrepreneurship programs exist, where somebody can give you a service for 6 months, maybe even relieve you from social media. Even if you'll support, at least you're not having to spend 2 hours in your day trying to, share on all platforms, and someone else who wants that skill, who needs that skill for whatever course. So I think looking for those kind of programs is something that we also need to get better at, and just accepting that you can't do everything. Okay, there gets a point where your business needs more, and if you need your business to get investment, you need your business to grow, you do need to release their workload, so you can go out there and get the investors, go out there and sell the story of what your organization is doing. Otherwise, if you don't, then your business will feel stagnant. There's somebody, I think, who's asked a question about how do you overcome anxiety. I think finding safe space, I don't talk to anyone. Not everyone has the ability to have access to me at my vulnerable moments, because some people are not very good at giving me the support that I need, while others are. So identifying who is the right person to go to for certain moments. Like, I'll give you an example. If I have a vision and a dream and something that I want to do with my business, I could go and tell person A, and already they don't get my vision, so they're gonna instill the doubt that I already have, and then that's how my vision dies. And then I'll have somebody else, person B, who is a motivated forward thinker, who poke holes into my dreams in a positive way, be like, oh, have you thought of this? And so then it will start giving me the motivation, or maybe I have this contact, try and contact this person. So be very, in terms of anxiety, why your anxiety sometimes increases is who is around you, who are the people you call friends, who are the, and think of it this way. I think, what's her name? Michelle Obama talked about this, the kitchen table, right? So when she wasn't in the White House, people could come to the house, right? But when she moved to the White House, not everyone could go with her to the White House, and not everyone could get an invite all the time. There's some who had access, some who didn't. So the same way, who can you invite in your kitchen table? Even more better, there's some people you're very comfortable with having them in your backyard, right? There's some you're okay with them coming into your living room. And there's only very few people you can invite to your bedroom. So when you break it down from like a mental health space, there's some people that are your social friends, right? So you can call them to be like, oh, I've got this bunch thing, you wanna come? So you do that, right? And then there's some people where you can share a little bit intimate things about, maybe we use it from a business point of view, a challenge, you can talk to them. So those are the people in your living room. And there's some people, only a few people, who get to come into the things, the issues, the challenges, the really negative points in your life that you can invite. So when you start to think of your mental health in this as physical spaces, so who's the people in your coming into your everything, like that you're okay them coming at the surface level, and then who are between surface and mid-level, and then there's some who get to know you more in an intimate way. Then that way you will identify who can help you through the times of anxiety. And when it comes to also like identifying how to take over your business, I always remember this. I went to an event where the late Bob Collymore said, don't invest in something that's like way away from what you already do, right? Because when you're doing business, you're also spending time researching. So you got to do something that you naturally enjoy, or will be willing to do the reading. Like, I can't see myself as a doctor for heart, because I'm not interested in learning about the heart or doing surgery, because it's not something I'm interested, right? But maybe I'm interested in working with humans. So it would be of my interest to learn how to develop the techniques of learning how to manage people's emotions, how to know when to speak to people when they're more on a logical level rather than on a high emotional level. So when it comes to managing your anxiety, when it comes to exploring new terrain waters, don't go far away from your original idea, because it's gonna fail. And the anxiety that you're feeling maybe is also an indicator that you're going the wrong way. Or it could be an indicator that you maybe need to lean in. So it takes time to figure out, and that's why it's really important to say what Dr. Joyce was saying, that like maybe go and talk to someone, because some of the things that you experience maybe have nothing to do with the present time. It might be something that you went through in the past that's propping up in your current situation that you thought you dealt with, or you didn't even know you had an issue. So yeah, I hope that helps.
Thank you so much for that, Angela. That really was insightful. I think also, just to add on, knowing your support circle, knowing who to go to, who to be able to talk to, is such an important thing, especially in this day and age. I know we are running a bit over time, so before we get into the poll, once again, I'd just like to welcome everyone for joining us on our webinar on balancing mental health and entrepreneurship. Please feel free to drop your questions on the chat. If you do want to engage with the panelists, please find their information and social media handles on the chat. My team is providing that information on the chat box, so please look out. Just a quick recap of our first sessions, the learning and insights that we have gone through in relation to mental health and the challenges that entrepreneurs usually deal with. We've talked about internal pressure to be successful. We've talked about the financial strains that we go through as entrepreneurs. We've talked about feeling the imposter syndrome that we usually feel and bottling up everything. I think the most important takeaways that I've gotten from this session is how to be able to manage stress and burnout, how to be mindful to ourselves in terms of just extending grace to ourselves, also focusing on a very important way to just manage your stress, to just focus on one thing and find an outlet that is doable for you, whether it's journaling, whether it's, just coping strategies, going for walks, going to the gym, whatever it might be as an individual, whatever gives you that release. I think that's something important to note. Just a quick one, we've also talked about the misconceptions of mental health, which I think is also very important. Mental health is not a weakness, and I think that narrative of just pushing through and, forcing yourself sometimes to push through and actually not going to see a professional is something that we need to take seriously, because bottling up all these things inside you sometimes can result in actual more critical conditions, right, where it affects your actual health. So seeking professional help is something I would advise for. We have very capable doctors over here on the call, so please feel free to reach out to them. I will get into our poll. So we'll be running a quick poll. Please share with us your feedback. We would like to engage with your feedback. So let me ask my colleague to share the poll. Thank you so much. I hope we can all see the poll. Okay, I can see some responses. Okay. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for sharing that feedback. Please, let's keep on engaging with the poll. We want to hear your feedback so we can be able to address what you're sharing with us. Okay. All right. I don't know if we're able to share the poll responses, but so far I can see 4% of us are saying I'm doing okay. 85% of us are saying I struggle from time to time. We have 6% saying I'm barely surviving. And then we have 3% who are saying I wasn't aware I had a problem. Right, I'm just gonna keep the poll going for another 2 minutes. Thank you so much, guys, for sharing your feedback. Thank you for being vulnerable enough to share your feedback. Okay, so I can see most of the responses are I struggle from time to time. So, and then we have, okay, I can see more and I'm doing okay. I'm barely surviving. 8% of us are saying that. 3% I wasn't aware I had a problem. Okay. All right, thank you so much for sharing that feedback. It looks like a significant portion of you are struggling from time to time. This is a very common experience for entrepreneurs, and I think it's important to address it. So just again, a recap of our session, our first session, we talked about the challenges that we go through as entrepreneurs, which we talked about internal pressure, to be successful, financial strains. We also talked about coping strategies and getting professional help, and also just being mindful to ourselves and extending grace to ourselves in terms of coping. All right, I will be moving over to the next section, which is session 2. We're going to be talking about remedies for mental health and entrepreneurship balance. Okay, I think we can stop the poll now. Thank you so much, team. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, please remember to use the Q&A if you have any questions. We will address these questions at the end of the session. We'll have a Q&A session. Also on the chat box, you'll be able to find the social media handles for our panelists and contact information on how to reach out to them. All right, let's get into it. So remedies for mental health and entrepreneurship balance. I will start off with Carol. Building on the challenges discussed earlier, let's explore some practical solutions. So can you please share some actionable strategies entrepreneurs can use to maintain a healthy work-life balance from your perspective?
Thanks, Michelle. I think even based on what Doc said on maintaining a healthy work-life balance, sometimes it's not easy. And what Doc said on work-life management is actually what we find ourselves mostly doing. I've developed self-care habits where I enjoy taking evening walks. I ensure I take breaks where necessary. If I don't feel working on a Monday and lack the motivation, even if I have tried to do at least one thing, I ensure I take a break. And I've also found that setting boundaries sometimes also helps me when it comes to ensuring that I'm clear in terms of what time do I delegate. These are my office hours and this is my personal time. I really do take that a lot into consideration. But sometimes as entrepreneurs, you tend to hear the phrase that you can work from say 8 a.m. up until say 3 a.m. there, but that's not realistic. But you can find that you can be productive for a period of time, take a break, then resume when you're feeling like you have the energy. So I think that's what mostly I do. And where I feel I lack the skills to deliver on a certain project or a certain requirement in terms of work, I ensure that I do ask for help and delegate as well, delegate some of the tasks. And I think that's how I've been able to navigate achieving a work-life management. So balance, I am not sure about it, but yes, management is what I can say I've been able to do. And just being able to trust others to do it as well as you would. Michelle?
Thank you so much, Caroline. I think on management, the self-care is very important. I would advocate for everybody just taking in that self-care is extremely important, whether it's doing a simple routine, face routine, whether it's going to the gym, evening walks. I think that's something that's very, very critical. So thank you for that. In terms of setting boundaries, I also agree with you. Having those clear boundaries and giving yourself that time to, work during your office hours and your personal time is very important, even family time. I think that's very important. After a long day, you need to be able to set those boundaries. In relation to seeking help and delegating tasks, I know most of us usually know, I can do this job better than anybody else. But I think sometimes asking for help when you're overwhelmed is so important, and it kind of just releases the pressure off you. So that one, I definitely agree with you. I'm going to allow Dr. Prashna to give us also some of her strategies on maintaining a healthy work-life balance, and then I'll move to the next question. Dr. Prashna?
Thank you. I think I resonate completely with what Caroline is saying. Exercise is something that we need to incorporate into our routines as much as we possibly can. I remember a patient walking into the clinic, I think it was the week before last, works for a bank. Targets have recently been changed, suddenly changed. Has set a goal for herself last year, 2023, that she wanted to buy an apartment. It didn't happen because a parent got sick, so money got diverted from her savings to that goal, from the goal to now medical bills. So she's saying, Doc, it's 5 months into 2024. I'm nowhere near even having saved enough to buy this apartment, etc., etc. And then yet my targets at work are changing, policies are not being communicated properly. And I'm like, okay, hold on a second. I'm overwhelmed hearing all this. So let's take a deep breath, both of us, and break this down. So, okay, we've set that goal that you want to buy a home. Great, it's a great goal. But it's not that you went and squandered the money. It went towards a medical bill, which was totally unexpected. So what are we going to do about that goal in 2024? And she's like, okay, so I've identified 2 places. One's in Syokimau, one's in Kilimani, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, which one do you want to go with, you know? So sometimes it is breaking down tasks into bite-sized pieces. It's sometimes as simple as that. Sometimes it's about perspective. Sometimes I've got a list of 20 odd 1-minute things that you could do to just recenter yourself. You know, box breathing, getting up, just stretching yourself out of your chair. And we face this as doctors. I know I'll get into clinic at 2. I've now made it a habit that nobody should walk into my door unless I've gotten up from the chair, gone to the door, opened the door, say bye to the other patient leaving and inviting the next one in, because otherwise I'll be sitting in that chair until I see the last patient. And I'll be cramped, I'll be uncomfortable, I'll be squirming, I'll be doing all that because I haven't stretched. So there's some small things we can do like that. You could take a little bit, 10 minutes of your lunch break, if you're lucky enough to have a lunch break, and not eat at your desk, for instance. Make it a mindful thing that I'm not going to pick up my lunch, bring it back to my desk, and eat at my desk. Even if it's the shortest lunch break you're having. Or I'm not going to ask someone to refill my coffee or my tea or my hot water or whatever it is. I'm going to get up and do it myself. That just also takes you away from perhaps some of the things that are facing you in front of you, which is your laptop or your accounts that you don't enjoy doing for that moment. Recenter yourself and then bring yourself to the task at hand. I also advocate for having a village of practitioners, not only therapists, business coaches, life coaches, therapists, nutritionists, drivers, house managers, care, whatever it takes, have a village of practitioners that you can truly depend on, whether you're seeing them on a monthly basis, whether you're actively calling on them as an SOS, whatever it is, but create this wealth of village around you. And we've got all of them present, by the way, in Kenya. And with technology, you could have a coach sitting anywhere in the world, as long as time, in terms of time zones, can work for you, you can lean on people. So use tech to your advantage. We as practitioners also do telemedicine now. So we'll have online sessions. You don't necessarily have to come into clinic. I personally hate it because I need body language to be able to ascertain some of what you're telling me. But a lot of people do use online consultations. So fall back on technology that COVID brought us so much closer to. In the end, if it is that you need to set boundaries, be very, very firm about some of your boundaries. Know which ones are negotiable, which ones are non-negotiable. Communicate your boundaries as best as you can. Be open about them with workmates, with co-founders, with partners, with directors, with board, with family, with children, with partners, with your social network, whatever it is. Communicate your boundary and say, by the way, guys, this is my football field. This is where you are. Play within it. So those are a few of the things that we employ. Thank you.
Thank
Thanks.
you, Dr. Prashna. Thank you so much for that. I really like what you've said about being practical with our expectations and our desires, and also just ensuring we have a village of practitioners. I haven't actually thought about that, so it's something I'm going to definitely look into. And, just being able to recenter ourselves. Sometimes we're in that position where you're in the office, you're feeling overwhelmed, taking a moment away from your desk and just getting a sense of zen and then going back to the task. I like that. So thank you for that. I'm going to shift gears a little bit. Angela and Dr. Joyce, how can entrepreneurs build a strong support system to manage their mental health? I will start with Angela and then over to Dr. Joyce.
Thank you, Michelle. So our organization is called Sister Speaks Global. So we do events, and the purpose of the events is to also encourage connections, building the right networks. I think it's really important to align yourself with people of the same industry. No point being in the space of climate action and then interacting with many businesses that are of a different industry. It's really good to network with people in the same spaces, because the problem that you have, they understand. The network that you're looking for, they probably have it. So one thing I definitely encourage is identifying events. Even, of course, I can shamefully plug my own, but identifying events that exist. If you have the time, be part of programs. I'm Ayali alumni, so allows me to know what's happening, and then you can apply for stuff as a result. So try and get into programs where you can develop your skills, and through those programs you will find a community. Going back to what Dr. Prashna is saying, find a village of people who, and first of all, people need to understand that, not that there are so many therapists and not all of them are right for you. So it's okay to try and find the one that works for you. But if therapy is not for you and you are in business, I really recommend that you get a mentor, because that person's going to keep you in check and will challenge you when you're coming up with ideas, will correct you, but you must be open to receive. I think the biggest issue is there are people, you can find the right spaces and the right people around you, but you must be open to receive both negative and or rather constructive feedback as well as positive. We shouldn't be in spaces where we are only getting celebrated and elevated all the time. We also need to surround ourselves with people who are going to challenge us and be like, you said you would do this, you're not doing it. Or I saw you posted this. I don't know if this is the right thing for you to be sharing, because it, might be misconstrued. So you do need people who can check you. You do need to also be with people who are already miles ahead of you. So I have a mentor And my mentor is strong in like the PR and the communications, and that's what I'm good at. I'm good at that. Like that's my strength when it comes to the organization. So she's a perfect mentor for me because she helps me think about what else can I do for the organization. So one thing I encourage is get into events, sign up for programs. There's so many. I know people feel like they're over mentored, but don't do too many programs, because then you don't, what time do you have to do your business, right? So find a program that aligns with what it is, the skills that you're looking for. In that space, you will find the right people to build in your circle. Attend events. I use climate action as an example. There's a big conference that's happening. Like try and find side events and attend those, like for instance. So whatever your space is, whatever your organization is, try and network with like-minded people, because that's the only way you will grow in the right way. And that's it. That's the one sure way you will find the right people who can help you when things are going negatively, or even if you are looking to expand, they could be the same very networks. I hope I've answered your question.
You have. Thank you so much, Angela. I think actually that's how me and you were able to meet, because I reached out to people within my network. I think that's very important. I think going for events and finding programs to be a part of is something that I've seen has also worked for me. And just aligning myself with people within my industry has really brought me a lot of opportunities. So I can say for sure that is something that works, as well as just getting people who hold you accountable in terms of your day-to-day, whether it's your family, whether it's your friends, your colleagues. Just having people who will put you in check will really steer you in a different direction. I know for myself personally, there are moments when I'm like, oh, I don't feel like doing this. And my friends will call me and be like, we're coming to your house now. You better get up and get moving. So I think having people who hold you accountable and push you sometimes to just, get on track with where you're supposed to be is something very important. I think also getting a mentor is something that people really need to take seriously. Just someone to help you navigate through the journey of life is also very important. I know, Dr. Joyce, I had asked you as well the same question, so I'll allow you to go in 1 minute so you can give us your feedback on that, and then we can move to the next question.
Sorry, did I miss something?
Yeah, the question was, how do entrepreneurs...
Yep.
Hello?
Yeah, I can hear
Can
you.
you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. So how do entrepreneurs build a strong support system to manage their mental health?
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, my internet was playing tricks on me earlier. So I really like the explanation already given. Just some quick additions. Close family and friends usually are the first line of support. As human beings, we are social beings. So, I mean, in addition to all the other groups of people mentioned, like mentors, advisors, of course, we can also consider fellow entrepreneurs. All these networks, I like the way you've structured your business and entrepreneurship for allyship. And now, because of technology, it can be global, including anonymous groups on the internet. Of course, professional mental health services. A professional mental health provider is like your professional friend, gets you to, see a few blind spots and know what to do. So I would say there is a difference between introverts and extroverts. Sometimes introverts hear social support as, I'm supposed to go to all these events and I'm going to be overwhelmed by all these people. But introverts are really great listeners, and they can feed off people's energy in building relationships, and that's great. Extroverts have a personality that's more like party animal, and they're more the life of the party. But in all these cases, because we all need social support, I would say we need awareness of how our personality interplays with interpersonal communication. I saw somebody had asked that in the chat about interpersonal communication. We need awareness of our own personalities, and then we need to balance, not too much of socialization. We say all work but no play, makes Jack a dull boy, but as well, we shouldn't have too much of, anything, and then connecting really not just going and having so many business cards, or I don't know what we do now in the digital age, if we still have printed business cards, but it's also about like leveraging. And we found a gender difference, especially for more males leveraging more on their social networks, and there's need for more women and entrepreneurs to leverage, to actually not just connect with people, but actually use those connections to advance, business agendas. And that seems like a missing, because women seem to be like more over-mentored, but not really moving into positions of advantage in the business and using the connections more, instrumentally, like men seem to be more, aggressive at that. So I think those are just the only points I could add to that. I really liked what Doc said earlier about boundaries. Of course, with connecting, we using our own awareness, we'll be able to put boundaries as we also put bridges. So thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Dr. Joyce. I'm going to move to the next question, which is, what resources are available for entrepreneurs struggling with mental health challenges? So this one, I'll give it to Dr. Joyce and Dr. Prashna.
Right, I think I can just continue. So entrepreneurship can be a lonely road. So developing mindfulness and a sort of a self-care package would be really great. Do you have a hygiene routine in the morning? So those kinds of things are what we're talking about. We can also include mental hygiene routine, because especially those of us working from home, we know that it can really be blurred, when you now are trying to create, wellness in your entrepreneurship, and at home there are, many other problems. So learning how to do meditation, building a better sleep routine. And some of us may need our gadgets to be very far from the bed in order for us to sleep. We are losing sleep. We are having a lot of problems with sleep. And so learning how to unplug, those are some of the resources. But there's also a roundup of apps, advice, and many other resources that are in the internet. At Hopewell, we do have a detailed list of offerings. We do have an app called SEMA, where we provide streamlined online therapy with very professional and confidential, at your fingertips kind of packages. The Imara package for employees, the Empower package, for just entrepreneurs, businesses. And all of these are on a secure platform. So this has enabled us to reach people at any time. So utilizing just the power of technology to get tailored support packages. And those are some resources that I think could empower entrepreneurs because of the personalized support they provide. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for that, Dr. Joyce. Before Dr. Prashna comes on, I just have a quick question. For those entrepreneurs who maybe are in their starting phase, they're just about to start their businesses, what if they don't have access or, the money to be able to afford, therapy, or to afford self-care routines, which is maybe going to a spa, etc.? Like, can you give us some other strategies they can use, or where they can be able to get these solutions? Or yeah,
just to piggyback on your question on my earlier statement, our services are highly subsidized. If you go to the SEMA website, our web app is very, very affordable. And aside from that, there are free and confidential and anonymous groups online, as well as professional service providers, both locally here in Kenya, as well as globally. So those are available. Now, in terms of self-care packages, it doesn't have to be as sophisticated as the spa day. It can be as simple as what Dr. Prashna said earlier, breathing. Breathing is your nearest and easiest self-care routine. It literally changes the vagus nerve function, and your entire sympathetic nervous system calms down, and your body starts saying, it is all okay. And so just practicing deep breathing as an example is something that can be done anywhere. We have others like progressive muscle relaxation. the minute that we use body techniques to calm down, the brain is able to focus better. And for those who are starting out, if you get into the village, like we mentioned the word village a lot, the global village, and ask, you'll most likely get an answer. So the importance of asking specifically what you would like will be very useful, because you can pretty much find any kind of help you need at either completely free, highly subsidized, and there are resources that are also completely anonymous, including on the internet. So if you just have internet access, you're going a long way in getting these resources that can further empower you. We do also lots of trainings, including on startups and those who are just starting out in entrepreneurship. And we feel like this is, an important part of being resilient and thriving. So it's not just about all the business tips. It's also about one's personal well-being as an entrepreneur. So that's also very much available. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Joyce. Just before I allow Dr. Prashna to go, Angie, I can see you had your hand up for a while. Sorry about that. Let me allow you to go, and then we can have Dr. Prashna.
I just wanted to just piggyback on what they were, probably I might say what Dr. Prashna wanted to say, but sleep, guys, sleep, okay? Take a day where you can sleep and all you can do is sleep. I think people don't understand the notion of doing nothing, right? It's really important to keep your brain inactive so that it can function when you need it to function. So I'd really encourage, I have the leisure of, because I live alone, I don't have a partner, I don't have any kids, so I can have the ability of sleeping in my own luxury, but try and make time to sleep. If you are living in a family unit, maybe just say to them, on Saturdays, guys, I'm gonna sleep until 10. Right? Please let me sleep into 10. So find a way. I was going to also just say, in your phones, there's something called a digital well-being section, depending on what phone you use. And you can set a timer in your phone on when your apps can come on and when they can come off. So I have my apps going off at 9 p.m., all of them. And then I tend to try my best not to respond to emails after 9 p.m. That's a rule I've made for myself. And then, and also apps, I try not to touch apps after 10 p.m. and I don't let my apps come on before 8 a.m. because I like my morning time with God and my own time of self-reflection. And I don't want to invite the world into my morning time, because once you put that phone on, and we're all guilty of this, you go into WhatsApp trying to message Dr. Prashna, then you see a message from Michelle and then you forget what, and so you start responding to, I'm like, oh, why did I come here in the first place? So I go back to doing my thing. I was like, oh no, I wanted to do this. So you have to find ways where you create time for yourself. And even if you can't afford to do the spas and what have you, you can afford to make time to sleep. You can afford to switch off your phone, put it on flight mode maybe, and just tell your emergency contacts that you're gonna go on flight mode for a couple of hours. But if it's really urgent, just maybe email me or something. So that's what I would do. I just wanted to share that.
Thank you so much, Angie. I completely agree with you. Sleep is necessary. Actually, I don't play with that one. Flight mode and sleeping for like 3 to 4 hours and not caring what's happening outside there. That is something that I know for sure works for me. And yeah, let me hear from Dr. Prashna before I get into the next question. And then we have our Q&A session where we can be able to ask our panelists any questions that you have. So please, let's prepare for that. Over to you, Dr. Prashna.
Thank you. Thanks, Angela. Thanks, Doc. Yeah, again, piggybacking on everything that's been said, sleep hygiene is really important. Do not disturb on our phones is really important. I have do not disturb on my phone when I'm not on call at the hospitals from 7 p.m. to 6 a.m., sometimes 7 a.m. in the morning. That means no notifications except from my emergency contacts, which is my child, my partner, my a or two friends come through. And in those times, perhaps, yes, I may be on TikTok or on Instagram or on Facebook, but I rarely will go into WhatsApp or my email unless I am expecting communication. So do not disturb is vital. Sleep is very, very important. It's not only restorative, but we need it. We need it to survive as much as we need water for life. The other thing is what Doc said, there's a wealth of knowledge and applications out there, whether it's breathing techniques or breath work, whether it's somatic exercises, whether it is meditation, journal prompts, whatever it is, that figure out, try a few things. What works for you works for you. What doesn't. I'll be vulnerable like my co-panelists and I'll say, I am the world's worst meditator in my opinion. If you allow me to do it sleeping down on my bed with a pillow under me, I may just get into 5 minutes. Otherwise, you're not going to find me trying to meditate. I've had my mentor try and get me to do it. I've had my coach try and get me to do it. My best friend try and get me to do it. But you know what, guys? I don't have the discipline, the inclination, or the interest in it. So everybody at one point had to say, okay, this one's really not going to work for her. So where is she going to go to switch that brain off? And what is she going to do to switch that brain off? And we found a set of music that works for me. And that's what we work with. Because it works with me, that's what we're working with. So try different things before you find a combination of things that work for you. Simple things like grounding. If you're lucky enough to work in a place that has just a small patch, or even live in a place that has a small patch of pure earth or a garden space, take your shoes off, take your stockings off, take your socks off, ground, connect, get your feet in that, on that grass, on that, even if it's dust for that moment. Guys, 5 minutes. We live in a tropical country. Find time to be out to catch the morning sun rays at 9 a.m. or 10 a.m. Again, it's 5 minutes or 10 minutes of just sunshine and vitamin D in your body. You could take your phone, you could leave it on your desk. You could say, you know what? I'm taking my laptop and I'm going to do it from outside. Something easy that you can do. But more that sunshine that you feel on your body, especially the morning sunshine, it really is rejuvenating. We spoke about spa days. Well, we all have access to hot water and a bucket. Soak your feet. Epsom salt, regular salt, no salt. You know, you could put shower gel for all I care. Soak your feet for a little while. Switch off and say, you know what? It's okay. I'm not going to do much. This is what I can in the realm of my ability for today, financial, emotional, physical, mental, and try and do it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Dr. Prashna. I think the one thing that you said, connecting with nature, is something that I've also heard a lot of people telling me. Just going outside and stepping on the grass for a few minutes, enjoying the sunlight is something very important. So thank you so much for sharing that. I know we have 3 minutes to the poll, so I have one burning question that I need to ask. Carol and Dr. Joyce, entrepreneurs lead by example. How can entrepreneurs create a mentally healthy work environment for their employees?
Great, thanks, Michelle, for that. I think what I've always done is I always leave my door open. I keep the lines of communication open. I tell my employees that if you have any burning issue, feel free to come and discuss that with me. Having regular check-ins with them and how they're doing after, say, a month or so, but also have HR come in and just have discussions on how, either if someone has just recently joined the team, how are they finding working with the other colleagues, and also how are they finding the culture in the office. So I think for me, that's what I practice, keeping communication open, and it has worked for me. And I would say for my employees.
Thank you for that, Carol. Dr. Joyce?
Yeah, so first of all, induction and training for staff is really important. How do we orient people into your entrepreneurship culture in your workplace? That's really critical. And I feel like even if you don't have a mental health policy, you can still create a safe place to work by properly introducing the newcomers and making sure everybody knows where to go for help. But there's something in, especially what I've observed is the major challenge in workplaces is we seem to talk a lot about the hardcore stuff about entrepreneurship, but we don't talk about mental health in the workplace. And we also don't give enough time for people to process, especially when there's been sudden changes about anything, you know. The thing is with technology, a decision can be changed like 5 times in a day. However, our brains are still very vintage and mammalian and primitive in the sense of like catching up to all this. And so it's important to not just talk about the content of all these things we are doing, but the process and how it's sitting with people, especially because we have to negotiate and have flexible working arrangements. And like the other day when I was saying there was a public holiday suddenly, and so we all had to rearrange our work. So that would be sort of like a toolkit for especially small businesses, which have maybe a small team, but a very big workforce. But even for bigger organizations, the whole idea of developing trust and respect in the workplace, communicating openly and regularly, feedback, and then lastly, aside from not overworking, is celebrating every win, even the small wins. I think in that case, we'll be able to create a mentally healthy environment.
Thank you so much, Dr. Joyce. I think maybe just to add on to what you said, I think celebrating the wins and also just going for lunches as an organization or going for lunches as a small team, it's important to just get to know each other kidogo. It doesn't have to be too intense and in your face, but it can be just a nice setting where you enjoy a cup of coffee with each other and just hear how each other, how everybody is doing within the organization. So we're just about to get into the Q&A, and I would encourage all of us on the call to please ask your questions on the Q&A chat box so that our panelists will be able to address them. I'm going to do a quick recap of what we have covered so far before we get into the Q&A session. So we've heard from our panelists about actionable strategies to maintain healthy work-life balance. We've been told about self-care habits, evening walks. We've been told about setting boundaries in terms of office hours and personal time. We've also been told about seeking help and delegating tasks when we're overwhelmed, and recentering ourselves, finding a village of practitioners, and breaking down tasks and having different perspectives. On building a support system, Angela shared with us aligning ourselves with people within our industry and developing our skills in terms of going for events, going for programs, getting into programs that can be able to upskill you as an individual, getting in spaces where you get accountable feedback from people within your industry or within your sector of work, getting a mentor. Dr. Joy shared with us about talking to close family and friends and being aware of who we are. And we've talked about again self-care packages where even if we're not able to afford the spas and the luxury things, we can just do something as simple as breathing exercises and meditation. We've also talked about some of the resources that entrepreneurs can get, which Dr. Joy shared on apps and advice. Hopewell is her firm, and you can be able to get this information on the chat box. My team has been sharing each of the panelists' social media links and contact information. So in case you do want to get the apps, if you do want to have a session with one of our panelists, Dr. Joyce or Dr. Prashna, please feel free to reach out to them. We've been sharing the links all through the webinar and we'll continue to share. And most importantly, I think one of the resources that Angie said that we can all take, which is free, is sleeping and creating time to just sleep and relax. It's very important. And putting your phone on D&D. The world will not end if you put your phone on D&D. So taking that into account. Carol also shared with us on healthy work environments for their employees. As entrepreneurs, I think it's important, and even organizations, to have continuous check-ins with your teammates, with your employees. Also, Dr. Joy shared on induction and training. And we also talked about processes within organization, which is communication with each other within the organization, and also getting feedback and celebrating wins within the organization. So we are just about to get into the Q&A session. This is the moment where you can ask all the questions that you have. So I am gonna start off with anonymous attendee. To all speakers, in your opinion, what are some actionable steps that can be taken to promote mental health awareness and destigmatize conversations around mental health in the entrepreneurial community? I really like that question. Let me get a raising hand from any of the panelists who want to answer that question.
I think first, acknowledge when you're struggling and within yourself, so that you don't find yourself doing the wrong things or things that are not contributing positively. So it's important to acknowledge that you're struggling first, and then that way you can seek the necessary help. Don't live life thinking that your problem is unique and it's just only you that's going through this. You'll be really surprised that if you actually share it with the right people, that you're not alone, and might be somebody has gone through that or can give you a word of encouragement, a word of advice. But I must stress this, is when you're emotionally high, it's really hard for logic to kick in. It's really hard to embrace what somebody might be sharing with you that on a logical mindset you would agree with. You already know it, so you would be aligned with it. So that's why I think it's really important to recognize when something is not working. And I live by one motto. It's learning. The art of fine mingling is learning when to let go and when to hold on. There are times where life asks you, let it go, so that you can open up your hands to receive something else. And there are times that life asks you, hang in there, hold on, be patient. If you look at a bamboo and a tomato plant, they grow differently, yet they still grow. One takes 3 months, one takes 4 years. But if I was a bamboo planter with a tomato mentality, I'm not gonna succeed, because I need to wait for about 4 years for that bamboo to shoot. And once it shoots, it just keeps on shooting. So you just need to recognize what your situation is. It asking you to hold on? Is it asking you to let go? But you can't know that answer when you're emotionally high. You need to be able to ask yourself that question seriously when your logic is a bit lower, and allow yourself grace. I think somebody said that. And it takes 3 days for your emotional level. So your first day is your worst day. You're all over the place. Your second day, you start to find balance. And then by the third day, hopefully you should get there. But if on the third day, you're still the same as the first day, then you have a problem.
Thank you so much, Angela, for that. I think I want to hear Dr. Prashna with that question as well. Just give us an answer to that question, please.
Thank you. I think it's a lot of what Angela is saying. know what's going on inside of you at that moment. Know what's going on inside of your mind at that moment. What is really, I always say to people, it's almost like peeling an onion. There's so many layers before you get to the core of what you're really grappling with. So if you allow yourself the downtime to peel this onion and to say, okay, so if it's fear, what's the root stem of this fear that perhaps I'm feeling at the moment? Is it masking itself as, oh, it's the end month, I've got salaries to pay, where's the money coming from? Perhaps you haven't focused enough on accounts payable and collecting that month. What's really been happening? Try and get to what is the underlying thing that's bugging you for this moment. If you can get to the underlying thing, then you know what you're dealing with. Then you know where your fear comes from, your thoughts are coming from, your feelings are coming from, and finally your action. So yeah, the 3-day theory works brilliantly. If, like she said, day 3, you're still at where you were day 1, emotionally, mentally, perhaps feeling like that image that we've all seen of that exhausted pigeon, reach out to any of your inner circle, because that's where you're going to first. If you're lucky, you'll have the mentor or the business coach or therapist that you found safe space with, and say, guys, this is where I'm at. I've tried everything in the book to try and understand it. I just don't get it now. Like what's going on? Like what really is happening to me right now? So that's what I would say. We're here. There's a huge community that you can lean on. Figure out how to get to that community or develop a community for yourself. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Dr. Prashna. I think I also agree with you not to make decisions when you're emotionally, very triggered or your emotions are very high. I think sometimes applying logic and just taking that time out is really important. So I'm going to move to the next question because we have 9 minutes to the end of our amazing webinar. We have a question from Yvonne. How does one handle the anxiety that comes with starting out, diversifying and breaking new ground? I'm going to give this to Carol. Please answer that question.
Great, thanks, Michelle. And I think the first step is, like also what Angela said, acknowledging and accepting what you're feeling and currently experiencing. And I would say the next step would be prepare. What is this that you're planning to roll out, or what is it that you intend? What is the plan that you have in place? Do you have a plan A, B, C, and D? Do you have any contingency plans in terms of what you are intending to roll out doesn't work out? What's the plan B or C? And also, I think it's to manage your expectations. Sometimes you can be fully prepared. You can have your armor on and say, you know what, I'm ready. This thing is going to work out. If you have already calculated in your plans, I'm going to make X, Y, and Z revenue. It's good to also manage your expectations that sometimes you can make 0 and sometimes you can also work out in a way that this would be maybe the most brilliant idea you may have come up with. And just, you will never know until you try. So it's best to acknowledge how you're feeling, plan and prepare, manage your expectations, and keep cheering yourself on, and talk to people around you, and have at least someone who is accountable if you're feeling that sometimes you're questioning yourself, if the imposter syndrome is also kicking in. How do you navigate that? So I think that's what I would say. Over to you, Michelle.
Thank you for that, Caroline. I think that's very key, managing our expectations. Sometimes our minds can really take us to a different place. So having this kind of strategies and resources is really important. Also, just having those people around you who can also hold you accountable and even be able to give you positive feedback, and feedback sometimes that maybe you might not agree with, but is necessary for you to hear. So I'm just going to quickly move to the next question. Is there a circle to support entrepreneurs' mental health or a group? I'm going to give this one to Dr. Joyce. Dr. Joyce, over to you.
Yes, most definitely. Just like we are all saying with a resounding yes, everything is just right by you. All you need to do is look over your shoulder and it's right there. So getting the right fit of a support group is all what we've been talking about, as well as identifying, what would be a good match for you in your season, including, I like what Dr. Prashna said about starting your own as well. You can make a support group. Make time to check in with other founders just for advice, words of encouragement, including even a shoulder to cry on, depending on what day it is in your entrepreneurship. It's easy now to create a small network of people, including online. Putting up a WhatsApp group link is completely free. And this is a space where you can not only lean on each other, but also learn from each other. So you'll be lucky if you get, people who get and support what you're going through on a daily basis. Of course, the wisdom is to know, because entrepreneurships are also in competition. So it's to know, who to tell at the right time and who you can confide in. At Hopewell, we have a range of programs, including ongoing ones where, we are tackling a lot of the stress and the well-being challenges of entrepreneurs. So feel free to be in touch with any of us panelists for the teams that are existing or promoting your team as well, so that you're working with people who you already trust. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Joyce. Again, please feel free to reach out to Dr. Joyce. Her link has been shared for social media and information on how to contact her if you need any further support, or if you're still looking for the support groups and you're not able to do it within your own community. Please feel free to reach out. I'm sure she can advise on which resources or which groups you can be able to join, so that you do not feel like you're alone. We're here to support you, and we're here to make the journey and the process easier for you. I have another question. In maintaining the work-life balance, how does one communicate to those around them, whether team members or family, that they need a mental health day or week? I'm going to allow any of the panelists to answer this question. Before I move to the next question, let me give it to Dr. Prashna.
Unashamedly. Totally unashamedly. And I'm guilty of this. I will never lie to you. I still sometimes feel guilty of saying, and I've done it this week, by the way, Friday is supposed to be my day off. A day, not only day off, but I take errands to do for the house or whatever it is that I want to do on a Friday. However, I fill my Friday. But I got called by a patient and they were like, please, can I just see you? And I'm thinking, should I not? But I gave in. So I have my own personal therapy in the morning at 9:30 scheduled, which will hopefully finish by 10:30 because I have a patient at 11. So we've all done it, but I will consistently keep saying, if you can communicate your boundaries well enough, with feeling as less guilt on your own about taking whatever time off you need, and start small. Sometimes you cannot take an entire day. Just say, I'm taking a few hours. Like you, Michelle, you said, you know what? I'll go to sleep for that 3-4 hours. I'll put my phone on flight mode. If you can't take long periods of time, like an entire day as a mental health day, start small. And I call them micro steps. Micro steps are really important, but start somewhere with no shame, no guilt attached to it. And you'll see yourself grow from 30 minutes or an hour to more and more slowly. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Dr. Prashna. I know we have 2 more minutes to the end of our webinar. Please just give us 5 more minutes of your time. Thank you for that feedback. I think even with me, I've gotten to a point where I'm very nonchalant about it. If I need my time off, I'm putting my phone on D&D, I'm putting it off. There's no question about it because my mental health is important. I do have a question, the last question from Winnie. How do you know you're not okay? It's a mental health issue and not a normal reaction to life challenges. I will allow Dr. Joyce to go and answer that question.
Yeah, sure. So that's a really good question. Actually, the warning signs that an entrepreneur might need to take a break or seek help include any kind of change. So you no longer enjoy your work, you're becoming cynical about your work. And I talked about cynicism, like really dark thoughts and being overcritical, nitpicky. You're probably starting to experience physical symptoms like fatigue, headaches, stomach aches, migraines. Sometimes if you go to the doctor, they say you don't have anything physical going on. And even before you go to any doctor, you have trouble sleeping, you have increased sensitivity to infections and illnesses or skin problems. Like I noticed recently, a lot of people have the flu, and that could be just something saying about, your immunity responding to stress levels. So in a nutshell, you might even have a hard time spelling the word entrepreneur. You're scared of many things. You're having like low self-esteem, low confidence. If you're feeling these things, especially the exaggerated mood, like exaggerated high or feeling really low, like I think it was Angela who had mentioned earlier, feeling worried, depressed, guilty, wordless. All of these things may be signs of a mental health issue. Now, remember, we talk about severity levels. So any kind of changes, sleep, if your weight is fluctuating more than 5% of your BMI range, changes in personal hygiene, you're just having a hard time neatening up around you. Any activity at work, all these things may be hinting to a mental health issue. And the best course of action is to just have a screening. There are numerous screening tools online, or best, of course, would be with a mental health professional in order to distinguish what would just be the normal ups and downs stresses or when a mental illness is actually developing. That would be the surefire way to know whether you are eligible for any diagnosis. You can have the symptoms and not a full diagnosis, but ultimately, it is very normal to have, a lot of stress symptoms, and this can be alleviated by speaking, with a professional. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Joyce. I know we have reached the end of time. I have some feedback from one of our entrepreneurs, one of the people joining on the webinar. This person says, I appreciate the panelists. I felt sick last week due to mental health breakdown. This session has been so helpful for me. I wish I can get to attend such sessions more often. Thank you, team, for what you are doing. You have truly saved a life and impacted me positively. Oh, I'm sending you virtual hugs, very, very tight hugs and all the love. Please remember you can be able to reach out to our panelists. We have shared, there are links on the chat box, so you can reach out to Angie, you can reach out to Caroline, you can reach out to Dr. Prashna, Dr. Joyce. There are some amazing women and they are very open and welcoming, so please feel free to reach out to them through their social media pages or through the contact information that has been shared on the link. Once again, I want to thank our amazing panelists. Thank you, Caroline Matiso from Her Hustle. Thank you so much. Thank you, Angie Waweru from Sister Speaks Global and Heels for Pads. Thank you, Dr. Prashna. from PRS Therapy Solutions. Thank you, Dr. Joyce Wangari from Hopewell from Consulting. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful that you guys took the time out of your day to have this conversation. I think it's really, really important, and I am so grateful that you guys have taken the time out and just been here. So thank you so much. So once again, please feel free to reach out to them. Their information is on the chat box. We'd also like to be able to get your feedback. I know my team on the back end has shared a feedback form. This will take roughly 1 to 2 minutes of your time. So please give us feedback. If you want more sessions like this, if you want more information about mental health, we can be able to provide that for you. So please just engage with us with the feedback form, or even reach us on our website. I'm sure my team has shared our information. Before we go, I would like to also mention that Wild International is having a program coming up on the 26th of June, which is geared to support entrepreneurs in building sustainable business models. So please check out the link in the chat for registration. I'm sure my colleagues have shared that. It's called the Scalerizer Workshop registration link. So please feel free. Once again, thank you so much. Angie, I'm just about to allow you to go. So please go ahead before I end the webinar. Thank you so much again, guys. I'm so grateful, and I hope we enjoyed this session. Angie, over to you.
I just wanted to share, for those who do want to continue having a conversation around mental health, we actually have an event today dedicated on women's health. We'll have Dr. Vundi, who's a psychiatrist. We'll have Natalia Sikalovia, who is a transpersonal regression therapist. We'll also have Mr. Obwaka, who's a surgeon at OBGYN. And we will also have the founder of Harriet's Botanicals, who is also an endo warrior, and how it led her to start her business. And we'll be having a counselor and psychologist who will be doing a session on how to manage your anxiety, and also how to find a work-life management tools. So if you're interested, just follow at Sister Speaks 254 on all platforms, and you can learn about the event. It's happening today from 5 p.m. at Capital Club. Tickets are 4,000. So if you're available, we'll see you there.
Thank you so much for that, Angie. I'm sure they can be able to find that information on your social media pages. So please, again, look out for Angie's information on the chat box. I know someone had asked about if this recording will be there and if it can be shared. Please send a message to the panelists or Wild International, and we'll be able to reach out to you. Just share with us your email or your contact details, and we'll be able to share the recording for you. So thank you guys once again. Thank you, Angie, Caroline, Dr. Prashna, and Dr. Joyce. You guys have been amazing. And thank you to my team as well in the back end who've been supporting. Thank you so much. And I am wishing you all a beautiful day and sending love and light to you all. All right. See you guys. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.